So good morning, everyone. Please confirm that I am audible and that you can hear me.
Good morning, Prof. You're audible and we can see what you're sharing.
All right, see that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, and good morning. Welcome to another masterclass in public health and leadership. Let me just be certain that we're recording this. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining. Today's masterclass will be a continuation of the conversation we started having last week, Wednesday, when we were talking about the science and art of facilitation. I would just like to go to that particular by way of just doing a bit of a recap so that we can see where we are continuing the conversation from. We we were able to discuss last Wednesday what facilitation is and is not, the science and the art, and we listed some things that we consider to be tools for the science and techniques um, for the art. And the most important thing we said about what facilitation is that it is our way of helping and supporting learning, communication, interaction among people, whatever the gathering, the setting, the meeting, the training is, ensuring that people are learning, interacting, and moving towards a set of objectives. And that facilitation is important for public health and health in general, because you want people to be able to take ownership of their own health and do things that will benefit them. And you're just providing the enabling environment and the platforms. And we were very clear that we are not, when we talk about facilitation, we're not primarily teaching, lecturing, directing, or instructing. We're not the ones in front. We are leading from behind. It's the whole concept of leading from behind. We looked at this set of activities to say facilitation works with agenda setting, process management, and guidance, also coordination, empathy, and motivation. And we said the first side of this screen shows us the science, and the second side shows us the art. I will just go there. So, and that we need both, that we need both. And so we try to come up with some list of what the tools for the science. I mean, if you're going to move people in an organized manner towards achieving a set objective, you would need some of these tools. And then you would need some techniques to also help, so that the tools will fall under the premise or the remit of the science, and the techniques will fall under the remit of the art. So we had that conversation, and I'd just like to close the recap looking at the fact that we said, we discussed that, I mean, in my estimation, I was sharing that we have 3 Ps and 3 Cs. There can be more, but this is just my thoughts. 3 Ps and 3 Cs, and the Ps will work with the science and the Cs will work with the art. And so you will need to plan, prepare, and produce. And there are tools to help you plan, prepare, and produce. And then you would need to connect, communicate, and coordinate. And there are also techniques for connecting, for communicating, and for coordinating. All right. So that's just a quick recap. So for example, if somebody wasn't here and you're joining on this masterclass for the first time in this particular series, you should be able to pick it up from where we stopped. Fantastic. Welcome. So today, the methodology we're going to be using is a discussion. Now, I don't have, because you've seen I'm not using slides today, and it's deliberate. We've gone back to our, should I say, lesson notes, as it were, to do today's class. All right. Very good. So when we're talking about tools for facilitation, I want us to talk a little bit about why. Why do we need these tools? What are some of the reasons why we would need a tool? And a tool is just any documented material, anything that is documented, anything that is written down, typed, organized, documented. So when I'm talking about tools, I'm really looking at things that have content that you've written down, and the content of it is what helps to facilitate the meeting. So your use of the content of the tools help facilitate the meeting. So I'm not talking tools in terms of engineering like spanner, plug, wheels. I'd rather prefer to look at them in the sense of facilitation as equipment. So we will look at tools, we will look at equipment. But can I have some thoughts in the chat as to why we need tools? For example, every meeting needs an agenda. Why do we need that? Why do we need that? What do they help us achieve and accomplish? Any thoughts in the chat box, please? Let's hear your thoughts. Yeah. So say it helps to save time. Somebody says, well, you need a guide. You really do need a guide. You come to a meet, and the two really go hand in hand, because if you do not have a guide, you will waste time. If you do not have a guide, you will waste time. You would come and you would be beating around the bush. In fact, you will go off on tangents, and you will be talking about stuff that have no business and no bearing with helping to meet the objectives. Yes, so gospel, thank you. It helps you to ensure that the objectives are met. So if you have 3 objectives, you look at those objectives and you say, okay, what are we going to do to be able to meet objective A, B, C? You write it down, you document, and as you go along, and you say, okay, we have done this activity. This activity is tying into objective 1. Okay, we've done this one, it's tying up to objective 2. So yes, so it helps for planning and organization of the flow. So that's organization, coordinate. You don't want to so you want to help to say, look, what is the way that this meeting should run in a logical sequence, in a manner that is easy to get and understand. Someone else is saying, Grace, I see you, documentation. So documentation is quite important. As a matter of fact, if you go back to our conversations around report writing, you would recall that this sort of tools help you when it's time to write a report. You go back to your agenda, because your agenda basically turns out to be the sketch, the skeleton of your report. So each aspect of the agenda, or whatever the tool is, feeds into your report when you now say, this is how you used it, this is what you did, and this is what the team, the people that work together, were able to achieve. These were the challenges in trying to achieve that objective. So fantastic. So all very correct. All very correct. So they help us to direct, organize, and focus. So I like the word focus, because what happens with tools is that, if you prepare those tools, whether it is the ones that the participants have or the ones that only the facilitators, and we'll see that there are some tools that you should keep as a facilitator, you should keep close to your chest. It shouldn't be shared with participants. And then there are some tools that participants must have. If you don't share it with participants, you've not done justice to that tool. So it helps. It helps to focus the meeting. It helps to organize. It helps to provide direction. It helps to manage the process. So timing attached to different activities. It helps to provide guidance. So let's look at a couple of tools They are not on the screen. So I like us, we did something like this last week, but just as a refresher, list a couple of tools for facilitation that you are aware of. Can we do a free listing? Just pop into the chat box as many of the tools that you think, that you see, that you've used, that you think are possible to use, that are helpful for facilitating any sort of interaction with people, maybe a meeting, maybe a training, anything. Let's just put them in the chat box and we'll be discussing out of that. Also, somebody says slides. Yeah, so whether they're PowerPoint slides or Google slides or whatever type of slides are important. And you can see last conversation we had Wednesday, I used slides quite a bit. Yes. Any other one? We look for more. All right, flip chart, agenda or program of events. I agree with all that we've written so far. Are there more? Are there more? Let's see. Okay, so a projector. So this is where it gets interesting. Topic guide. I agree with topic guide. So this is where it gets interesting. A projector, the hall, the seats, the tables, those hardware, those things that need to be there, I would put under the category of equipment supporting facilitation. So the slides will be a tool for facilitation, while the projector will be an equipment for supporting facilitation. So that's the way I put it. The facilitator's guide, the facilitator's manual will be a tool for facilitation. Now, engagement of participants will be a technique for facilitation, And I'm excited to announce, and I will announce again before the session is over, that we will have on board next week, Wednesday, a very close friend of mine and an excellent facilitator, Dr. Folusho Alamina, coming on board to take us on the art of facilitation, just a little bit. So a platform like a Zoom, in itself, I would put Zoom on the computer in the category of equipment supporting facilitation. So there are some communication equipment like apps to help support facilitation. But the facilitation itself is how you are going to conduct the Zoom meeting. What are you going to use? So if you will still share an agenda, if you will do a poll, for example, Zoom has what you call poll. So if you will do a poll, and so the poll questions that you have typed and set up on the Zoom will be the tool. So let's get it so that we do not mix tool with equipment. All right, so let's go into a list. This is by no means, again, disclaimer, an exhaustive list, but it just shows us a bit of what we are talking about. So we have some things here. So I didn't see anybody write down session plans, and it just tells me that isn't something we commonly use. But I'll tell you that it is a hack. You know, when I say facilitation, some things have hacks, and you can learn the hacks of certain things. So this is a hack. The session plans, I'll show you how they work and how to use them. But they are fantastic and amazing facilitation tool. Many of us know agenda, otherwise called a program. Some people call it timetable, but it's a bit different from a timetable in the sense that it has a bit more information. We'll look at that in detail as we go down. Sitting plans, which means it's documented. That means that for you to do sitting plans, you need to know you need to have your participants list ahead of time and know who they are, what their designations are. Always don't just get their names, get their sex, if you can get their age, and if you can get their cadre, their professional cadre, or what their designation is, so that those information is what will help you arrange the seats. So people can come into a training and where they sit has been predetermined. Where they sit has been predetermined, and it's deliberate because you want to be able to build some sort of team or group dynamics where there's a mix of different sort of people, or where you have all the same people together in one space. Just depends on what your objective is. PowerPoint slides or Google slides or whatever type of slides. So somebody has mentioned topic guides. We've seen that. Cue cards. Cue cards. So cue cards are what we used to use before PowerPoint, before slides came up. So you have your talking points and your notes on some cards, and then you from one card to the other, that it just reminds you of what next. Then, okay, what next are you supposed to say? What next are you supposed to say? All right, so listening skills will come into facilitation techniques. Breakout sessions will come into facilitation techniques. So when we do that session on facilitation techniques, you'll see how to use brainstorming, breakout, group discussions, and so on and so forth for facilitation. So these are just some of the tools. And you can see how that is different from the equipment. So you can put the computers here, you can put the hall here, you can put the seats, you can put that here. You can put public address system. You can put the projector, the screens, whatever it is that is the equipment that is needed for a facilitation event to happen. Sometimes you don't have any of this equipment and you're still supposed to facilitate. Or you probably have a table and chairs. You don't have flipboard chart, you don't have projector, you don't have any of these things, but you still are going to facilitate. So facilitation will still happen, may still happen, and excellently well in the absence of equipment. Just equipment, just make it easier for the facilitation session. But the tools, you should absolutely go away from this masterclass resolving in your mind that you will always set up tools to prepare ahead of time for your facilitation session. Right. Let's go back. All right. So how and why and when do we use facilitation tools? Let's understand that you set up your tools before the event. You do not set up your tools during or after, because it's not useful anymore. Your tools must be set up before the event. So you must have prepared your agenda before the meeting starts, because that is what you're going to share and give everyone. And not just, so when we talk about different types, you'll see the ones that you must share ahead of time and the ones that you must keep close to your chest. It's important to know that the tools are part of your planning process. They're part of your planning process for the meeting that you're going to be facilitating. So you must have given some thought, and critical thinking skills are now very important here, to how the meeting is going to be conducted, how the training would work, how the advocacy event will happen, how the whatever it is that needs to happen that brings people together to achieve a certain objective, for them to work together to achieve a certain objective. You would need to have a plan ahead of time. Now, do not do these things and leave them in your head. A lot of people say, oh, no, I know the agenda. I know the agenda. And you come into the meeting, the agenda is only in your brain, not enough, not good enough. Write it down. Write it down. Session plans, write it. Sitting arrangements, don't arrange the seats in your head. Write it down. Topic guides ahead of time. You have already written the cue cards ahead of time. You must write it down. And then, of course, the more you use facilitation tools, the more skill you gain. And you would actually need some level of skill to be able to use facilitation tools. So I'm going to show us two main ones. Two main ones that have been a game changer for me. One is the one that we have heard of, we are used to. And then there's another one, because I didn't see anybody put it in the chat. My guess has always been correct. Many of us don't even know about it, but it's amazing. An amazing tool for facilitation. So let's look at the first one, an agenda. Many of us know about an agenda, and we use agenda. So what is an agenda? It's an outline. It's a roadmap of the course of activities. Yeah, that's what it is. So it's actually a framework that guides the process of the meeting. It guides the process of the meeting. What an agenda does is that it documents what that meeting is about, what activities will happen, who will carry out those activities, and within what time frame will it happen. So everybody needs access to the agenda. Those who are organizing the meeting, the owners of the meeting need access to the agenda. So for example, if you're carrying out a meeting on behalf of funders, you received a grant, and part of what you're supposed to do is an advocacy meeting. Your funders need a copy of the agenda. It's very important so that when you're sending in either your request for payment ahead of the meeting or your report back to them, one of the things you must attach as an annex to your report is the agenda. So do not give your report and not attach that as an annex, because the agenda is the evidence that you planned for this meeting and that the meeting was organized and structured and that indeed it occurred. The facilitators also need an agenda. So those people who are like you planning the success of the meeting need an agenda. Participants especially need an agenda. So people say, let them come to the meeting, then they will now tell them what the agenda is. Not very smart. As a matter of fact, a rule for excellent facilitation is send the agenda ahead. Send the agenda ahead. Make sure the participants, potential participants, have access to the agenda ahead. Let them know what they are coming in for. Do not leave people blind as to what the meeting is about. Let them know what they are coming in for. All right. So I'd like to show you an example of an agenda that I just developed. Alema is on this course, so she would remember this. Sorry, this is a picture paste. So apologies if it isn't very sharp. So because it's blown out. So just a couple of days ago, we were part of a meeting, and that meeting was to facilitate a data collection exercise that we're about to get into. And so it was important to do an agenda and send the agenda ahead of time, even though I particularly was late in sending this, but this got to them before the meeting started, so that you just know it helps everybody be organized. Do you see there are three objectives here? There are three objectives here. And one of the things you must realize is that the objectives must tally with the activities. So every activity, let me say it, I think the better way to say it is every activity must be tied into an objective. There should be no careless activity. Even if you say we are doing a break, we want to have a dance break or an exercise break, it ties in with the objectives. It's simple that you want people to have a short time of rest and then come back and continue the work. And that helps to revive and revitalize and then now helps to focus people. Fine. Every activity here must tie into the objective. So you see that the typical, and then I mean, this is a typical template you can use for setting up an agenda. How is this different from a timetable? A timetable is just activities, time, person responsible. This is more than that. This tells us what the objectives are for this meeting. What the objectives are for this meeting. And then so you now see that there are timelines, there are topics or activities depending on what sort of meeting it is, and then you have facilitators. It's really important to do that. And one of the things that you learn along the way as you prepare this is how to break down each session into the smaller component parts. So you see that here there is an opening session, and we've said it's for 30 minutes. What we want to do here is just we want people to be familiar with themselves, with the objectives of the training. We want to set up a couple of ground rules just so that training goes smoothly, activity goes smoothly. And then so you just put all of those things in there. As a matter of fact, if you want to be more detailed, you in brackets beside each of these welcome, introduction, training objects, agenda, ground rules, you will put a time that breaks down this. But there's another document I will show you that needs to be that much granular. But at this stage, you can just leave it like this, knowing that, okay, I have 30 minutes to sort all of this out. What happens is that during the training, the facilitator is looking at the agenda, making reference to it. The participants are looking at the agenda, making reference to it. So they know when you're off tangent. You know when you're getting off tangent. You know when you're moving into a rabbit hole. You know when the conversation is derailing, when the meeting is derailing, and you're able to bring it back, especially with when we've gone past our time. We've gone past our time. Now, the beautiful thing about this also is that there may be need to make changes within the meeting. So this is not casting rock, stone, or concrete. You may need to be flexible, but the thing about it is that because they have a copy, participants have a copy, you have a copy, you both know what we have set out to do. If you need to make changes, you need to communicate with meeting. You need to communicate, oh, we need to make changes. Can we move this around? Can we do this first and then do this next? That's the ideal thing to do. Please put down questions. If you have any questions about the agenda, I can take one or two questions before I go to the next tool, keeping an eye on our time. Does anybody have a specific question about agenda or anything we've discussed so far? You can put it in the chat. If I could take one or two questions before. Now, when you first start preparing this, if this is your first time, it may take a bit of time. You may need, if there are two facilitators, you may need to put heads together and prepare. But the more you do this, it gets to a time where within a 30-minute period, you can pretty much develop an agenda. Yeah. So somebody may ask, how is this different from, okay, let's say we have an association meeting, an agenda of the meeting, and they will just say opening prayer, opening remarks, da 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 da. Now, that's also a form of agenda, but it's not structured. This is a structured agenda. So it's better for your agenda to be structured, not for it not to be structured. All right. So does this agenda always need to be adopted? Yeah, no, really. No, absolutely they don't always need. It depends on the sort of meeting that you are having. So if you prepared an agenda for an association or group meeting, and the thing about an association or group meeting is that everybody has equal voice and equal say, sort of like a parliamentary system. Yeah. So that in that case, you have people to have input into the agenda and then adopt the agenda. It's just meeting protocol. But if it's a training, for example, you don't need people to adopt the agenda. However, what you can do is send the agenda ahead of time and ask for people's input. So, for example, if it's a board meeting, and the executives of an NGO or whatever, you may decide that you don't want to adopt that meeting style of somebody calling for adjournment, somebody adopting this, somebody seconding. Usually it's associations and groups that use that style of managing their meetings. But you can decide there's a board meeting you want to send, or a staff meeting, you want to send the agenda ahead of time. Let people look at it. And if they think that, boss, there's something that we have missed out, they can email back to you and say, could we add this? Is there space for this on the agenda? Could we put this into there? So, yeah, so you don't have to be the autocratic about it and be the only one to set the content of the agenda. So for anything you are doing that requires an agenda, it is smart to send it ahead of time. Any meeting, anything, any training, anything, even if it's an advocacy meeting. Now, you may not want to send to If you say you're going for an advocacy meeting, would you send the agenda ahead to the Commissioner for Health, for example? It's possible, you can. But you may not have that access to do so. But share with the other people on the team with you before the meeting. Share with the other stakeholders. Share with the other stakeholders. Right. So you can still send more questions about agenda, but we will move on. Because I want to spend some time here on session plans. So I really, 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 really want to give credit to one of my mentors in health development who actually opened my eyes to see this, to learn how to use this. And it has actually been a game changer for me in facilitation. So what I was taught, I am teaching. I'm teaching you. William Aniebe, thank you so much for teaching me this. Now, what is a session plan? A session plan looks at part or all of the aspects of an event and goes into granular details about how it will be executed so that you don't leave anything to chance. It's personal to the facilitator, very personal. So your session plan is your session plan. You can share it with other facilitators. It can be a shared plan between the organizers of a meeting, but ideally your session plan should not go to the participants. It should not go to the participants. It should be yours and yours alone. So the first couple of meetings I did with us in the Masterclass series, when we were talking about report writing, and I have my session plans. They're there. When I'm sending out materials, you will not get my session plans. They're personal to me because they are my way of having very granular, very detailed. I like to say it's not the devil that is in the details, it's actually God that is in the details. Very detailed about how the meeting will go, including the fact that I would log in 5 minutes before time and play music. You don't need to know that. I'm just executing. And then you are wondering, oh, this meeting is so well planned. But it's because I wrote down in very deep, minute detail, up to the detail of what will I be wearing? How soon will I come online? When will I send out reminders? Very detailed plans. Session plans are really detailed. It forms the basis of your being able to execute the meeting, being able to facilitate the meeting. It ensures that you've thought through everything that is needed to get the meeting objectives to be achieved. It actually feeds into your agenda because what happens in the agenda is that you have different parts and different activities. So you pick out one activity and you have a plan around it. So for example, it could be that the objective is to plan along with data collectors the logistics arrangements for the data collection exercise. That's the objective. The activity is a discussion or a brainstorming session on the requirements, logistic requirements. Your session plan now gives you details about how you will execute that discussion. Are you going to write there that you would take different aspects of logistics and tell them what is on ground, then ask for their input? That's a session plan. So that will not go into your agenda, that granular, with methodology of how you're going to achieve it. But it should come into your session plan. So I hope what I'm saying makes sense. And the session plan doesn't take you away from achieving, from what the agenda is saying. It's just like you take your agenda, you take parts of it, and you break it down into far more detail. So I like to share with you a session plan that I developed with Dr. Zainab Kwaru a couple of months ago. So this was a effective communication training for medical women. And we were take a part of it, which was titled Critical Thinking and Analytical Writing. So you see the session plan that here we have the title, the topic, we have who is doing, the people responsible for that session, how long that session will last, because on the agenda, all you will see is critical thinking, analytical writing on one column, the time, duration, and then who is the facilitator on another. Here, you have a lot more details. So you see things like, what's the background to this session? So in an agenda, you won't see this. What's the background? Why are we doing this session? So we want to empower participants to apply critical thinking skills, analytical writing skills to communication. Then session will now have objectives. The session will have objectives. So this is different from the objectives of the meeting, which are general, generic. But a particular session will need to also have objectives. And it don't just need to be, I know I've done 3 before and 3, you're seeing 3 here. It doesn't have to be 3. I think I like 3s. I don't know, but it can just be one objective that you want to achieve. If you have a 30-minute slot for a session, it can't be putting 3 or 4 objectives. All right. So you see that there is a part to say, okay, how do we break down this 90 minutes? So we, the facilitators, one of us will set the stage. And we would use a plenary approach, which means that everybody will get to talk. I will say, and then I will invite input, comments, or it can just be that, oh, we want to review the objectives and the expectations. Can people read? So please read for us. Read the first one. Can you please, who can read this? Can this table please read? Can this table please read? 5 minutes. We're done. So you have set the stage. Then, okay, we want people to understand the power of critical thinking, and we want PowerPoint slides, and we want it to be a presentation. What we call a lecturate. A short, brief lecture, usually 15 minutes or under. If it gets more than that, it's a full lecture now. And somebody's going to take that. Oh, okay. What are the tools that are needed? We need a PowerPoint. So PowerPoint slides need to be put together. What are the equipment that is needed? So you can even add method, tools, equipment, and even make this even more granular. What are the equipment needed? Okay, so let's make sure we have PowerPoint, a projector. Let's be sure that we have a slide manager, slide changer. Then okay, so we'll say, okay, what's the next thing we want to do? We want people to be able to understand that there are tools that aid critical thinking. All right. So this is a practice session. How do we do Google? Let's have a problem statement, a question that we would distribute, maybe different questions to different groups. Or if you're doing Zoom, like we're doing here, you're doing an online meeting, can we do breakout rooms now? Let's give them a Google form for them to review, critique, and submit to a particular portal. This means that you're not the one talking. People are actively participating and engaging through an activity. So, okay, yeah, let's give that a bit more time, and let's say 20 minutes. Then let's come back and do another lecture. Okay, let's come back and do another lecture. Then let's look at something that we can demonstrate. Okay, so we want people to learn how to use the review function of Microsoft Word. All right, so everybody bring out your laptops at this session. We're going to be using the review section of I've sent out a Word document ahead of time. Please check that Word document and do this, do that, do that, do that, do that. They are the ones doing. You are just facilitating. At the end of the day, okay, let's do a question and answer session. Let's bring in our moderator to come and take a question and answer session. In fact, the moderator, between one person coming to the other, you can even add here, moderator takes over and invites the next person. Moderator takes over and invites the next person. So all of this, people will leave the session saying, oh my God, what a fantastic meeting. What a fantastic, it was so engaging, it was so energetic, we talked, we played, we were part of it. And even if you want to say, do a bugada, here, it's planned. The music is cute. The DJ knows he's playing this music at this particular time. So it's all coordinated and orchestrated. So what seems to you as a free-flowing, beautiful meeting was planned. So they planned you when you came for the meeting that you will have. And session plans help that to happen. These columns are put here don't even need to be there. You can add more columns. You can go as granular as you need to be able to have. So when you are now doing your preparation, like the day before, the morning, whatever, you know that you look at your session. It's your session plan you use to know what equipment you would need. Apart from the general things like you need a hall. But it's your session plan that you know that the hall needs to be bigger because people will go into one group of one side of the hall. The hall needs to have walls, white walls, because I want people to use sticky pads and pin up. The hall needs to have space. Or can we have multiple microphones because they're going to have role play in one corner of the hall? I mean, it's your session plan. So unless you think in those sort of details and plan your meetings in this sort of way, this is especially beautiful for trainings, especially beautiful. Now, if you need to change something, you cannot confer among yourselves, facilitators, organizers, and tweak. Nobody knows, maybe for example, the projector fails, projector stops working. And I really tell people, facilitators, everything you plan, some things, in fact, many things will go wrong in the field. There's no way you will plan and your plan will be executed 100% without something going wrong. However, if you have a session plan, it helps you to be flexible. It's okay. What other method can I use? What other method can I use? The projector is not working. Okay, let's move to the practice session while we're trying to get another projector. It just helps you to be able to or send the slides to this. If there's a WhatsApp group, send the slides to the WhatsApp group. Everybody look at your WhatsApp, look at your phones, look at your email. Slides have been sent to you. We just want you to. So you turn that into a guide for the conversation. All right. Can I have questions, please? Any questions? Yeah, I see your comments, Mary. No, you are not. You were not crazy. You are not weird. You just plan. And this is beautiful. It's beautiful to plan because what seems to be effortless in execution often takes a lot of effort. If there's anything that seems to be effortless in execution, a lot of effort was put into it to make it look effortless. Do we have any questions? We have just a few minutes before we round up. So definitely you will be getting this. Any questions? Any questions? So we don't have time to look into more tools. Possibly we will come back and check out how to use some other tools. Next week, Wednesday, don't want to miss it for the world. Dr. Felicia Lamina is one of the best facilitators and communicators I know. And not just because she's my friend, but that's just the truth. So she will be with us and she will show us what the techniques of facilitation are. And then, of course, you'll not be able to exhaust all techniques because there are so many. But she'll take one or two, just like I have done, and open your eyes to it. Maybe something familiar that you already know and use, and then something not so familiar that has such great benefits. So it is our desire that you will implement this. Yeah, somebody says the Toastmaster. That's true. If we have a desire that you should implement this, please put this into practice. That's why I will send this ahead, along to you so that you can look at those templates.
Someone asked a question this morning, Ma. There's a question in the box.
Really change the dynamics of your facilitation. Yes. In planning among unresolved issues, in fact, you can quarrel. I'm telling you, you can't quarrel while you are doing your facilitation planning meeting. That's why you have planning meetings. You should all be on the same page. You should all be in sync. So you can have disagreements, but you will always need to come together and agree. If you have such sharp disagreements, maybe you may not be the best people to be working together or facilitating together. All right. So Somebody may want to use this approach, somebody must use it. And please be open to learn and get superior wisdom and understanding. All right, people, it's been a wonderful time with you. I'm super excited. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments. People are happy. I'm grateful for the blessing of being able to reach you and share with you. Please use it. Very important. Find a way to incorporate this into everything you do so that you up your game and you bring in excellence into your facilitation. Thank you very much. Bless us. Have a most productive day. Bye.
Thank you, ma. Bye.